may have noticed it was windy today. Couldn't have asked for a better hand to talk about impermanence. Did you notice how it impacted everything? How it changed? And now it's dying down. It'll be cooler and more still tomorrow. So we're talking about the 3 marks of existence this week, these descriptors of the human condition: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and corelessness. So today we'll be talking more about impermanence, and if you hear teachers talk about that or read books, you'll see that referred to as anicca, this Pali word for not permanent. Impermanence. And we're also talking every day about this concept of threads to the absolute, that anything you notice, anytime you're paying attention, right there, you have something in that moment that you can follow all the way to what it is you want to know. It's the attention that's missing. Nothing else is missing. So we'll revisit that every day too. So the wind, these Santa Ana winds, my boys had recently told me, oh yeah, did you know simi means wind? And I was like, what? How did I not know that? I mean, and some of us have, lived in this area forever. And then they said they heard that in their Spanish class, and I thought, well, that doesn't sound like wind. So then I wondered, maybe that's native, right? Mm-hmm. So sure enough, my friends who are here, and we've all had kids go through the school system, why did we not know this? So this is a Chumash word. They named it after the white thread clouds that come with the Santa Ana winds. Another Chumash word, their word was Shimiyi. That was a Chumash village, and the winds, named after the winds. The Chumash inhabited this region. I don't know why it makes me feel so emotional, but they were here, they think, for 11,000 years. And we get so attached to this country, our little plans and designs. The wind is impermanent, and the people who named it first, and the people who named this place, their civilization is impermanent. Nothing is exempt. And when we say it like that, it seems obvious, right? Well, yes, that was here, now it's not. The winds were here, now they're not. And in a way, it is that simple. It's just a matter of following the threads from, what we know to what we easily know, to paying a little bit more attention, doing a little bit of work. Just this one example just right here is like a little bit more and a little bit more. So my friends are here tonight from in town, so I'll revisit my new favorite word that I'm using this week is exoteric. It's the opposite of esoteric. So exoteric is what's easy to teach and observe, and is something that a person doesn't necessarily need any instruction or extra effort to know. It's easily achievable. Esoteric is the word most people are familiar with, something more subtle, difficult to understand. And esoteric, I think, does have this connotation of something that's like for other people. It's like, oh, that's for, people who are whatever, I don't know, the Pope or somebody, or saints, scholars, perhaps. But it's definitely for all of us. Anybody who wants to come sit in this room and meditate and consider these ideas, the esoteric is important because this is the place where people get stuck, and how to be unstuck is to move from the obvious, below the level of the obvious, and keep going. But that doesn't mean that it's truly exclusive in the sense that it is for some and not for others, even if they wanted it. Esoteric teachings and meditation realms are only exclusive because students don't look, they don't ask, they don't go find out. These things are hidden in plain sight. Some of you know there's a little door in the floor in my pantry that leads to a little crawl space. It's not a secret. You don't need a special skill to know about it. But, you just don't know because you didn't look, unless you do know because, you know my kids and they like to hang out there because it's creepy. So, it's very simple, but you have to look. And you can't go beyond a certain amount of knowing without putting in some kind of extra effort. These things are available to everyone. That's my position. So how to get beyond this, the obvious, the intellectual observation of impermanence. So we need to see what's in the way. Okay, ready to get out of exoteric only and into esoteric. Yesterday we mentioned the 3 poisons. That's, a catchy name, unsurprisingly not super popular, that people aren't beating out down the door wanting to know about the 3 poisons. But they're just these, root conditions that are natural to people of attachment, ignorance, and aversion. Ignorance simply meaning that you don't know what you don't know. And all of these things get in the way of seeing clearly. But it can be helpful to consider one at a time, and attachment has a special relationship with impermanence. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Nowhere is attachment more universal than in regard to our own lives and our loved ones. So mortality, right? And sickness, troubles with our kids or other people that we care about. Without recognition, without some acceptance, some kind of deliberate turning toward those things that are a little uncomfortable, people, at least in this culture, seem to, for the most part, naturally turn away, kind of close up and don't want to look at it. But any of this, any tightening, any closing, closes us to everything. So we don't get to pick and choose, which things we would like to be true and which things we would prefer were not true. So I always have this out. This is the 5 remembrances, and I have it's always out on this little drawer set on the other side of that wall if you want to look at it again later. But this is a traditional reflection in some schools that they encourage people to do, every day before their practice to, help them remember, like we talked about last night with my other hanging. It's like now's the time. There isn't any other time. This is it. Right, Mitzi? This is it. That's one of her favorites, we might say. So the 5 remembrances go like this. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belongings. And that goes on, but this, the main idea here of making friends with these things that are a part of the natural world, to loosen up that gripping, the holding on to something, anything, as though to avoid the fact that things will change. Holding on to kids, holding on to a relationship, anti-aging. I remember being shocked when I started seeing that a couple decades ago. Like, what does that mean, anti-aging? Now it's unavoidable. But I hope this connection is clear, this how attachment is related. It's, this holding on to things, usually unconsciously, to avoid something else, to avoid the next thing changing, to avoid ultimate things changing. So this attachment, often when you read about the 3 poisons, it's called greed, and you might notice I didn't lead with that yesterday. It's, nobody wants to be called greedy in general, but I can tell you from my own experience, it's a relief to have affliction identified. Just like disease, we talked about disease, normal physical diseases last night too. Can't do much about it if we don't know what it is. I remember this even from, mental health care too. Somebody telling me, oh, we can approach it this way, physical health care. Well, you have this condition. It can be such a relief. And this, I was very surprised to find that I didn't mind being called out for greed whenever this was a couple of years ago, when I went up to the temple for New Year's and I was like in a bad funk. I was really bent out of shape because I had planned for years to go to a certain training with my teacher, and it was difficult to arrange. My kids are still in school, and when we got there, within a couple days it was canceled because somebody flew in and had COVID, and then everybody got COVID, and we all had to leave, and we didn't even see the teacher. I was in a bad mood for about a month, and it's like, yeah, I spent money, I was put out, it was inconvenient, right? But then I really got stuck. Like, I didn't know how to get unstuck from that. I felt like, like I had been robbed of something that I deserved, that I had planned for and waited for. And, but I knew I was stuck too, and I wanted help, and I when I went back for New Year's, which is just a traditional thing to, see the teacher on New Year's Day, and I was uncomfortable enough that I was willing to say so in front of a group because I wasn't going to be able to see her privately. So I asked in front of the group, can you offer me some encouragement? Like, this is how I'm feeling. And I just, don't know what to do next. And the first thing she said to me was, don't be greedy. Which was, it's surprising, right? It's not what you'd expect in most scenarios. But this is why this is my teacher. That scalpel precision that never misses its mark. And I felt this instant identification and relief that it was, it was accurate. It's like, I have so much, and I'm going to be stuck on this for how long? And, I was righted. I was relieved of that affliction for the time being, at least for that condition. But, trying to hold on to something, not letting it go, not letting that thing that happened, not admitting that it was over, that it passed, prevented me from being aware in the very next moment of how fortunate I was. This is how greed and attachment get in the way of the freedom and the ease that's available in impermanence, in recognizing impermanence. Bless you. So in regard to noticing craving, attachment, or if you like greed, whether it's, meditating or moving about, there are a lot of different ways you might notice this. You might have, thoughts and emotions coming up about people that you care about, those who, have some very close people in their lives. There's usually moments that come up where you might, worry about somebody or miss somebody. And here on this retreat, you might just notice sometimes, being hungry, looking forward to a rest period, looking forward to sleep. All of these things there's a flavor of attachment in there that I just want to point out because it's the tip of that thread where you get to, at any moment, turn toward that and say, oh, I'm grabbing onto something. What would it be like if I relaxed, turned toward this feeling? Let it keep moving without being conscious of that, without being conscious that that's what that is. This is what kind of condemns people to continue chasing what they want and running from what they don't want, and that busyness and that belief that that chase is going to end in something that we want, that it will be satisfying. All that does is keep us so distracted that we never get to the thing we want, that we never get to our heart's desire because of chasing it, because of chasing everything that stands in for it. And this doesn't mean you don't get to enjoy anything that you want. In fact, absolutely the opposite, because with the less attachment, less gripping, there's so much more available energy and attention to what is happening right now. Not thinking that it's almost over, not thinking that it's not like the other time, not missing it altogether because of some other distraction. So this grasping, the grasping decreases. What's less pleasant moves on more easily. Many of us can vouch for that, have a lot of experience with that because of meditation. The unpleasant moves more easily. The pleasant is more available. All the things so many people come to practice looking for happiness and peace and fulfillment and wanting to skip over the things that are hard, but turning away from those, gripping, makes it impossible to receive all of the things that you want. There has to be space, there has to be openness to be able to receive also. So noticing change, this is an effective way to sensitize yourself to impermanence. And noticing attachments allows you to practice relaxing and opening. Just noticing these natural feelings of grasping. We're not trying to get rid of them. We're trying to open and allow. They go on their own. That grasping at its core, that is resistance to impermanence. So this made me think of a couple of these masters' books that I have here. One of them is Jean Klein, that I mentioned to Alan earlier today. He was a French non-dualist, and he talks about relief from attachment with the word desirelessness, and he has a beautiful way of describing how you can notice that. He points out that there's this mistake that gets people hooked into wanting something that cannot be satisfying, whether it's, something material or someone's attention or a special mind state or whatever it is. There's been this, this is his, proposition that seems pretty accurate to me, is that just this association happens and then we don't examine it. So there's craving, there's wanting, there's getting, and then there's relief. And so people, without examining that, more and more associate this getting something with getting relief, getting something, getting relief. And it keeps this perpetually unsatisfying, unending chase for something going. When he's saying what happens is there's this moment of desirelessness where the mind just stopped wanting. That's the thing that we were really wanting, is the end of wanting. It's not the thing at all. It was a mistake. And I didn't remember that he mentioned this with desirelessness until I found it in his book yesterday, but he talks about that like a thread that you can follow, just like we're talking about. He says, follow your desire to its end as you'd follow a stream to the ocean or an echo to its origin. The beginning and end of desire is one and the same. So sometimes you might be able to notice, tonight, tomorrow, for sure, something will come up where you might notice an ordinary wanting and a relief. Being tired, eager to end a sit, eager to go to bed, eager to take a shower. Tomorrow, maybe at some point, eager to have breakfast, eager to have lunch. And see if you notice then, when that need is met, this freedom from wanting. And that's what being willing to look at attachment and impermanence can offer on a very consistent basis. And I'm not going to read from this book, but just to show you if you're interested later, this book is a commentary by a modern Zen master. His name was Kodo Sawaki Roshi. He was a Soto Zen master. And he wrote this book about a poem that someone wrote in the 7th century called the Song of Awakening. So in the Song of Awakening, the person who wrote that has this beautiful line, "In the peace of extinction, there is nothing to seek." So you hear how these are all the same thing, right? Desirelessness, freedom from attachment, allowing impermanence. It's a good mantra. And the peace of extinction, there is nothing to seek.